Well, it has been 1 week since the Democratic primary in the New York City mayor's race, and results of ranked choice voting will be released today.
Now, one thing is clear. Young voters across the 5 boroughs are changing the face of politics. According to the Board of Elections, voters ages 25 to 34 had the largest turnout. About 40% of early voters were under the age of 40, and nearly 25% of them had not voted in recent primaries.
So the question is, will that momentum continue through the general election? Here to give us more insight is Jasmine Kay, who mobilizes young voters, and she's joined by 2 youth organizers, Shiv Sohan and Zuzu Kadir. So good morning to all of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
So Jasmine, we'll start with you. This was quite a campaign, and you've heard so many people say about Zohran Mamdani's campaign that this is one that everyone's going to be studying. He was able to mobilize nearly 50,000 volunteers. What was the secret to his campaign?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having us and for elevating the voices of young voters. I think one of the things that this campaign did particularly well is utilize a peer-to-peer model. So the single most effective way to turn a young voter who is a non-voter into a voter is by having a personal connection. And he did this really well, I would say, in 2 main ways. First of all, he did digital. I mean, we saw digital, I would say, momentum both from the traditional platforms, so say TikTok, Instagram, but also non-traditional. So say messaging boards, DMs, group chats, and really working on that personalized message to them. Second was, to your point, that field game. I mean, 50,000 volunteers is a significant number, and a lot of those were young people. And so even I'm with organizers from Triage here, they had over 560 youth volunteers. These are some people who may not even be able to vote yet. So he saw a lot of momentum by working on a really focused and dedicated peer-to-peer model.
He spoke their language.
Yeah.
Basically.
And understands the internet, too.
Yes, exactly.
Which is crucial as well. Yeah. You know, Shiv, for you, I'm wondering 2 things. One, was this your first primary? And also, what do you think about this race and the issues at stake galvanize these young voters?
Yeah. So this was not my first primary. I vote in every election since I've turned 18, but Zuzu and I both work at Triage. Triage is a student-focused group. We have over 1,500 members across the 5 boroughs of New York City, focused on building a climate-resilient New York City and New York State. And really, this election, we've been actually endorsing since 2020 in different elections in the city. So when it came time for this time, in March, we held a mayoral forum, hearing from a variety of different candidates on what their issues are, what their vision is for the future. And our members overwhelmingly endorsed Zohran. So that was 93% of our members came out. And this is not just even our membership. Some of my friends who are formerly political, formerly non-political, are now getting more active because they see this affirmative and aspiring vision for our city.
Yeah, was this your first primary?
This was not my first primary. I voted last June, but I think that this one kind of had a different feel for me to it. It felt more important, and I felt like more connected with Zohran himself because I felt like he was really appealing to youth voters. He was willing to listen. We've had experience with him in his time in the assembly, and so I feel like we kind of knew him and then felt more comfortable kind of voting.
What are the issues that are most important to voters your age?
I'd say, well, definitely climate change, and Zohran's been great on like all things climate. He has a history of supporting like all the bills that we've been trying to pass through the state assembly. But I would also say like fast free buses is really important for the youth because that's how we get around, that's how we get to school. And you know, obviously student Metro cards are a thing, but as you get older, as you go to college, it's like less of a thing. And so fast free buses are important.
Now, Jasmine, you mentioned that Mamdani had a strong online game here, but he also hit the pavement too, meeting people in person on the street. Some say it was a lot like Obama's 2008 presidential push. Do you see those parallels there?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I hear consistently speaking with young voters is that they feel disillusioned by the political process. They feel like the political process is not for them. And I do think that one thing that both Mamdani's campaign and Obama did very well was speak to that disillusionment, but also provide another vision. So think of the change kind of candidate role and provide hope to those folks. I mean, we saw when you look at the early vote returns, not only was 40% of the vote under 40, we also saw a significant spike of people who voted for the first time since that 2012 primary. Around 25% of voters had not voted in a primary since 2012 when we last saw Obama on the ballot. So, of course, I actually was fortunate. I am older Gen Z, which we actually saw. They're younger Gen Z.
Yeah.
That was actually the biggest turnout. So you saw older Gen Z and millennials, many of who grew up under Obama. I was fortunate. I interned under Obama in his digital strategy office, but he really, I think, to a lot of folks that are my age, showed a way that politics can be. And I do think there's some reminiscing on that, but I'm also mindful to compare every candidate to President Obama, since, national is very different than New York.
But many people are also wondering, will Mamdani be able to keep up this momentum in the general election? Because this is party-affiliated voters. Will it make a difference then, and will he be able to keep up this momentum, especially when people are questioning his experience?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have seen is that, to the point that I was making before, some of these non-traditional voters are now tapped in. So I do really think that sort of momentum, I believe, will continue. But I also think it's tremendously important that he reaches out to voters who may have not voted for him and really listen to their concerns. One of the things that he said, and he said before, is that people are sick of politicians that lecture them, and they're looking for people who listen to them. So particularly, speaking to those voters in those demographic groups is critical.
All right.
Jasmine, Shiv, Zuzu, thank you all so much for joining us here this morning.
Yeah, appreciate your time.